Good afternoon and welcome. You're listening live to Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your lovely self at KMET 1490 AM ABC Radio Live. I'm Dr. Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist in full-time private practice located in beautiful Encino, California, a few minutes away from LA. And with me, I have Dr. Robert Jaffe, my business partner, my colleague, and my best friend, who he's going to introduce himself. And at this part of the show, we are offering a program on human sexuality.
Human sexuality, relationships, and love.
And love.
Right.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Dr. Robert Jaffe. I am partner with Dr. Rashidian. We've been partners for 17 years, and time goes by quickly. Very quickly.
Wow, 17 years.
Yeah.
Yes. It's hard to hear that from you. But I'm glad that we have been in this beautiful partnership, and we our business have grown, our products are growing, and it's just that at least I can say this about myself, that how much I have learned from you.
Oh, well, glad. I believe that knowledge should be free to all, and we learn from each other. And as a result of learning from each other, we can all say that we are equal in life because we all have knowledge that the other person doesn't have. We can share with each other. And when we share freely and we connect with each other through the sharing, things become very beautiful.
Exactly. Somewhere I read not too long ago, I think maybe last week or so, that it says that we cannot deny the power of experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, education is absolutely vital to our growth, and that's why we go to school, we go to university, college, and some of us push it even further. And then we kind of share our knowledge through a variety of work, such as this one, through publications and all of that. But what ties up all that together, all that education, I think is a variety of personal and professional experiences that we gain as we move forward.
Right. No substitute for experience.
No substitute for experience.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Well.
Yes.
So what are we going to be discussing today?
So today, as usual, we we are going to be sharing an aspect of human sexuality, right? And we know that, we are sexual beings from the moment of birth all the way until the day that we die. And so some people think that as we age, or sexuality has a, kind of a time interval somewhere in our lives. The reality is that sexuality doesn't go away. It is, if sexuality wants to go away in our lives, it is like, so an example of it is like, that we stop breathing, but we are still living, right? So it can't happen. We may, when we get hungry, we eat. So we can't just eliminate hunger, it's there, right? We may be able to delay our eating, but we eat ultimately, otherwise we die, right? Nobody dies out of not having sex, obviously, but it is as vital as everything else that we have and every other needs that we have. So some people are successful in having a great sex life, right? And some people suffer through that process, right? So for the past 2 weeks, you and I have decided to offer tips and experiences of those who actually do have great sex experiences together, partners that they enjoy having sex together. And what are the things that they do to keep that sex life of them, kind of healthy, happy, satisfying, and joyful, and also they are so motivated to enjoy it more than everything else in their life, or
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, is a main aspect of their life together,
Right.
right? And like everything else, having a joyful sex doesn't just happen. And that's a myth that some people may have, that, you love somebody, and then because you love each other, so sex must be great. Where in fact, it's not going to happen. You may have a beautiful backyard, and you think just because you have a big backyard, and by itself is just going to look beautiful. But what do we do with our backyard? We kind of do landscaping. We kind of plant flowers or trees, and then we keep at it. We keep it nice and tidy. We water the plants. We filterize it. We do all of that so that everything stays alive and vibrant and beautiful, right?
We put energy
You
into it.
put energy into it. It's time, right? It's time, is creativity, is willingness, is wanting to look great,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So having a great sex and sex life is exactly, needs the same attention and even more so,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not just because two people love each other, then sex must be great. And this is something that I hear from my couples a lot when they come to therapy, and they say, we don't understand it. We love each other, but our sex life is horrible. We don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a common thing that I hear. And then what I tell them, is this, that nobody taught them how to have sex. Nobody has sat down to teach them, or even at the schools, what sexuality is and how to identify their sexuality, how to understand their sexual self. And therefore, if they don't know how to recognize their own sexual self, that means how to understand their desires, their wants, their interests, right? What works for them and what doesn't, and how do they understand their body in a sexual way, and how they can connect the dots together. And if they have a resource to ask questions and find their answers, how could they relate and how could they understand their partner's sexuality and sexual needs,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So that's, I think, is one of the missing part in community, in society, that people assume that sex just happens in a good way. And one of the reasons is that when they look at the media, movies, videos, and all of that, they see that two people get together and suddenly they have this amazing, hot sex that everybody dreams about having it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like James Bond movie. Two
Yeah.
strangers come together and suddenly they have the most passionate sex. And,
Well,
it's
it's interesting too, because sometimes that happens, and sometimes it's because people are strangers.
right,
And when people are strangers, there's no emotional risk,
right.
so
Yeah.
people can feel freer sometimes to express
Right.
their authentic true selves.
But that's not an everlasting situation. We're
Right.
talking here about relationships,
Right.
right? So when it comes to relationships, there are other factors that they are there. So there are, which if we can get, if we have time, we can get to them. But that passionate, sex that we see on the screen, like you said, because there is no relationship and commitment attached to it, people for the moment can be themselves and express themselves in that way.
Mm-hmm.
However, that's not going to last, as we can see, for example, how character changes in the movie and how relationship ends, or they say it's not working for them. But there are couples that, their sex life is just beautiful, romantic, passionate, intimate, healthy, and they always look for more of that,
Hmm. Absolutely.
right?
When you have a good thing, you want more.
When you have a good thing, you want more of it, right?
Hmm.
But in order to have more of it, they need to work at it.
Yeah, I don't even like the word work.
All right.
Yeah, I
Tell
don't
me,
like
what
the
do
word.
you like to say?
I like the word play.
Play.
Yeah,
Okay.
they like to. Yeah, we can play together.
Right.
Yeah, and in playing, playing together, we get to express different aspects of ourselves, and we get to learn about each other,
Mhm.
and we get to have joyous connection. That's the way I look at it. There was a program put out by a sex therapist, and the title of the program was "Making Love Work." And I never liked that title because who wants to make love work?
Yeah, when you said that, I kind of paused.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I kind of got a pinch in my stomach,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I felt it.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think of it as work. I think of it as play and learning things about yourself and your partner that can be something that helps you feel more and more connected.
Remember that the other day we were working on our book, and I changed one word, and I said, I like dancing,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yes. Yeah, dancing.
Right, dancing,
We can
dancing
dance together.
together. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So making love that's promotes growth, promotes learning about each other and yourself and ourself, is like having the most beautiful romantic dance, the most
Mm-hmm.
beautiful waltz, the most beautiful tango, because you
Mm-hmm.
see how those dancers, they come together and they understand each other's move, they trust each other with their moves.
Yeah.
And they know that they are held, they know that they are taken, they know that they are safe with each other, they know that it's about the two of them, not just one. you
Mm-hmm.
know I saw it. I sometimes, I watch these dances with the stars,
Mm-hmm.
and when they have those waltz or tango, or even some of those fast dance that they have, and they're so sophisticatedly, my God, they dance. You know, it reminds me of, this is how making love needs to look like. Look how they play with each other. Look
Yeah.
how they relate to each other.
Mm-hmm.
There is not even a single move that is missed by one another.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a harmony between the two of them, right?
I like that word,
Yeah,
harmony.
yeah, it's such a
Yeah.
harmony that
Yeah.
it's so vibrant,
Mm-hmm.
it's so romantic, it's so sexy,
Mm-hmm.
and there is touch, there is intimacy, there is communication, there is commitment, there is partnership. It's all a whole package of love,
Mm-hmm.
you know
Right.
so we just got a signal about our commercial, so we will talk about this more after commercial break.
Please stay tuned.
Welcome back from our commercial break. This is Heart to Heart program at KMET 1496 AM, ABC News Radio. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here. For those just tuning in, our discussion for this segment is human sexuality and how people manage to have the greatest sex together, and then some, right? So, for those of you who are listening, we encourage you to please call us at 951 922 3532, because we would like to hear from you. We would like to hear from your experience. And also, your question helps us to know what to offer you better in the future. And for those people who are not able to contact us, your questions also may answer some of their questions. And please, introduce this program to those that you believe they can benefit from this program. And you can also watch us on our YouTube, heart-2-heart.online/YouTube. So, Dr. Jaffe, we were talking about, what makes how people end up being so playful with each other, so have that harmonious, am I saying that correctly?
Correct.
Dance of making love,
Mm-hmm.
And like everything else in life, it needs to be creative, it needs to be, spiced up, it needs to have, new things in it, it needs to actually, it may sound kind of very mechanical, but realistically, from time to time, I think there is a need to have an inventory of how a couple make love together. And then through that inventory, understand themselves that what works, what doesn't work, what needs to be added, what needs to be let go of, and then kind of, just bringing new positions, new format, new way of understanding about each other. Because every time we go through a growth process, we actually learn more about ourselves, and through that knowing more, we see that, oh, there are more things to know about myself. You see how when you close a door and open a door, you see other doors behind that door.
Yeah.
Right. So here's our sum of, we already have talked about for the past 2 weeks what successful couples do, and I'm not going to go back and to kind of review those steps. They are on KMET iCloud. If you want to, you're more than welcome to go there and look at, listen to our prior recording for the past 2 weeks or so. And then so we're going to continue with our journey of learning how to have the best sexual experiences in life.
And
right.
And who doesn't want that?
Who doesn't want that? Mm-hmm. You tell me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I talked about spicing it up. So successful couples do experience different positions. If something feels routine to them, guess what? They talk to each other, they inform each other, they bring in other things that they may work, and if the key word here is that they talk to each other. If they want to introduce a new position of having sex, they talk it over to make sure that their partners is okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't just suddenly surprise them at the middle of the action. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that's really vital, because it creates and maintains the sense of safety among couples, that if there is anything new, they already have consent to do that, they already are aware of it, they are already in agreement, and therefore there is a willingness to try the new positions. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that is such a beautiful thing to do. Some of these new techniques may include new equipment, even like sex toys and all of that.
Yeah.
That some people may not be familiar with, or kind of be concerned about using them, or actually not even knowing how to use them. Right. Sometimes I myself, I see that couples, or they introduce their new sex toy, and I haven't heard of it. Mm. Mm-hmm. And then I say, well, I'm glad you guys, I just learned something from you. Mm-hmm. Right. So these are just like any other, technology. Sex toys are also, are expanding, and people are using them. So once, one partner learns about something new and they want to try that up, which I think that's a beautiful thing, because they're open to possibilities, they're open to how to have better sex, And they introduce that, they share that with their partner.
Mhm.
And then they investigate, they learn about it, and it may not, the new technique may not even involve a sex toy, right? So it's just a new position, and then they identify it, make sure of its safety and all of that. And there you go, they have a new spice added to their sex life.
Right. You mentioned positions, and I want to add that positions are certainly important, but that also the routine of how we stimulate each other.
Right.
How do we start? You know, do we start by kissing? Do we start by teasing? Do we start by rubbing the forearm or playing with the fingers? You know, there's all different ways that we can start, and and anything that you want to do, like you said, if you communicate it, and you're both on the same page, whatever you do is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine, and sometimes a lot more than fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, because sometimes when one partner introduces a new technique or a new position, a new format altogether, maybe it takes away from the shyness of the other partner, because
Mm-hmm.
the other partner may actually, females, I see that more in female than I see that in men, that they want to experience something new, but they have certain level of shyness and modest attitude that doesn't allow them to open up to wanting to experience something new.
Right.
So that actually helps those shy partners to open up, and then that's a growth. That by itself is a growth.
Mm-hmm.
To be open to new possibilities, to enjoy sex life. So the other thing that happy couples do, that makes sex life more enjoyable and satisfying for them, is that they actually enjoy from their each other's pleasure, right?
Yes, they get pleasure from the other person's pleasure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that means when they see that how they are helping each other to experience a more joyful sexual relationship, right? It helps them, to be and stay more connected.
Mm-hmm.
It helps them to trust each other more. It helps them to feel safe with each other more, because they see that, they both have each other's best interest in mind, in particular when it comes to sexual pleasure. So sex is not just about them reaching orgasm, and one may reach orgasm before than the other one, and then it's not the same. People say that when they both don't have orgasm at the same time, but happy couple, they stay with each other, and they enjoy that, they're giving pleasure to each other. And I think that's one of the most important part of a sexual relationship, where chemistry, intimacy, connectedness, communication, verbal and behavioral, all comes together.
Mm-hmm. So when you say they stay with each other, what you're saying then is that they are sensitive to where the other person is,
Right.
and they want to please the other person.
Right.
That's what you mean?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That, and also they during this process, they attend to each other's fantasies,
Mm-hmm.
because part of sexual pleasure at the ultimate level is when two people are able to introduce their fantasies, and actually, if possible, make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's giving pleasure to your partner at the level that they want to, at the level that they imagine it, at the level that they fantasize about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's I think is beautiful. I think is romantic. Is a demonstration of your partner very well. You respect them for what they want, right? And you're there to support them with what they want,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're looking at me like it's so strange what I'm saying.
No,
No,
no, no,
what
no,
what
no.
what seems to be strange?
No, nothing, nothing.
You were taken by what I was saying. What was it like?
Well, I was thinking about a movie that I saw where people were acting out their sexual fantasies, and
If they are doable.
yeah, well, not just doable if they're safe.
Yeah, doable. Yeah, by doable I mean safe. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because we need to say that some people enjoy doing things that are unsafe,
Right.
and those are things that obviously you need like to put a warning like on a pack of cigarettes, right? Because it has to be physically safe as well as acceptable to your partner.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yes. Safety is always, an important aspect of sexual relationship. Consent is an important aspect of, sexual relationship,
Right,
right? So we can't just have fantasize about something and accept that, that fantasy is going to happen and our partner is going to agree with it,
hmm,
right? So it
right,
needs to be realistic, right? So the other part that makes, sexual relationship a happy one is that when two partners, they do things that increases the joy among them, right? So you know uh, sometimes, that's a process, how to learn about yourself, how to learn about your partner, just like any activity, right? If you want to learn how to ride a bicycle, how many times does it take for a person to learn, to practice before they can ride it, basically, in a smooth way, right? And then gradually it becomes so automatic, right?
right,
So to learn about what exactly, sense of enjoyment about sex, a good sex, what does it look like? It takes practice in a way that the two partners are going to be learning about themselves, their bodily sensations, and how they feel safe next to each other to experience all of that,
hmm,
right?
hmm,
And then through that process, they're just gonna be able to increase, their sense of satisfaction in their sexual relationship,
right. Yeah,
right?
yeah. So the two most important words in philosophy and in psychology um, that enable all of this to happen is know thyself. The more you're aware of yourself,
Mhm.
the more you can communicate your awareness to your
Right,
partner,
right,
and the better you're going to have the experience sexually as well as non-sexually,
right.
because your partner then will understand you better, and your partner and you and your partner can make beautiful music together because you're both talking about the songs that you enjoy playing.
Exactly,
Yes.
right. Um, it's just how to create harmony between the two songs,
Mm-hmm.
how to bring it all together,
Right.
how to bring each note together,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's the beautiful of uh, a couple relating to each other so they can create that harmony,
Correct.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The other part of it is during the actual, sexual activity, for couples to look after their level of comfort,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, some couples create of sexual pain. Some couple create complain of, actually having a uncomfortable, setting, right? So if and some couple, they are able, the happy couple are able to understand that and work through that. If there is a sexual pain, they consult about it, what's going on, especially for female. If there is a vaginal dryness, they use lubrication. If there is a problem with back pain for certain positions, or anything that causes, physical discomfort, and therefore it becomes a distraction to have sex, they use a pillow, they use a softer mattress, they use they select an area where they both can be so comfortable, and also have privacy, because you can only imagine, if a couple gets together and they are so warmed up, and then their 2.5-year-old shows up. You know?
Sometimes inevitable.
Yes. Or somehow, one of the in-laws, accidentally opens the door, or I mean, many things can happen. I mean, I have heard many stories about the, sudden interruptions of a scene that, went went really, embarrassing. One of the stories that I remember is, so there was this couple who went to, her parents' home for the weekend, and then that parent also had some of their cousins there to visit. So it was a big house, and everybody had a room. They all went upstairs, the second floor, to sleep at night, right? So let's talk about this story after we come back from our commercial break. It's very
Okay.
interesting.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
A healthy, happy, romantic, sexual, and vibrant sexual life with your partner. So before the commercial break, I started to share a story about 3 couples that actually happen to have sex at the same time and at the same floor, and they happen to be a parent, a daughter with her husband, and a cousin of a mom with her husband, right? And all 3 of them, for whatever reason, and this is a real story, they started to have sex, and they were done at the same time, and they all decided to use the main shower. So they all got opened the door, and they all thought that everybody else is they're sleeping, so they're the only one that they are right. They are up, and so they didn't cover themselves, and all 3 couples at the same time. And this is really, how it happened, I don't know. So they just saw each other at the middle of the big hallway.
And if you don't think that God has a sense of humor,
Yes,
this is absolute evidence that God does have a sense of humor.
Yes. So anyway, I know that from one of the couples that I heard that, they disappeared for about 6 months. They were too embarrassed to go back. So, okay, one of the other things that happy couple do, that they have a great sex, believe it or not, they don't rely on porn movies, right? So we know that porn movies can be, for some couple, a good starter. They kind of brings them, the mood that they want. But realistically, it doesn't speak about what they want in their sexual life. And porn can set unrealistic expectation for couples. For example, a man may think that they have to act exactly like the actor of the movie, right? A female believes that they have to act exactly like the lady in the movie, or they have these expectations from each other, right? So it kind of gives them a sense of unrealistic expectation. Well, so happy couple do know this, that they are not actor and actresses. They know that that porn movie, was not all created within an episode of making love. And actually, sometimes that may not look like making love, or it could be, an episode of making love, depending on how couple each time they approach each other, right? But to have that as an example of how making love can look like or should look like is unrealistic, because it's not about the couple. This is only about what that movie is, right? And life is not a movie. And not everything, all the responses can happen according to the movie, right? Some people takes them longer to get in the mood. Some takes them faster to get in the mood. A couple can, they need to create that harmony among each other. So everything is not by the book. Everything is not by the porn movie. Everything that's not, a good example for couples who want to enjoy each other and enjoy themselves in that setting.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot be that actor and actress in the movie.
Right.
Right.
Are you saying people shouldn't use porn for their sex life?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
At the beginning, I said, for some people, that's a good start because it brings them to in a mood.
Uh-huh.
But to use that all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? For those couples that they believe their sexuality is about themselves, it's about
Mm-hmm.
how they feel sexually, it's about how what stimulates them, what works
Mm-hmm.
for them. Having porn for them doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about couples making their own porn movies?
Actually, happy couples, they do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I have heard from some couples who they do that. They say that after watching their film, they can learn about themselves. They say, oh, that's where I, for example, enjoyed it the most, or I want more of this. I don't think I really enjoyed that part of it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a growth part. They can learn from each other. They can see themselves in action,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then of course that becomes their own porn movie. So it's not that porn movie, there is nothing negative about it, but for those people who they're looking at their growth and they're looking at to what makes them enjoyable to them, porn movie always doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It has to do with with their level of comfort of what works for them. Sometimes a poor movie is over in 10 minutes, where a happy couple making love sometimes takes half an hour or so. Sometimes takes a whole hour. Sometimes it takes a whole day, right? I don't know if there is a poor movie that lasts a whole day. Does it? Do you know of any? Maybe I'm so backwards on this. I don't know, right?
Well, no. I mean, it porn, generally is kind of wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
Right.
But then there's different kinds of porn.
Right.
And then of course there's erotica.
Right.
And erotica is different than porn in
Right.
that you can have an erotic movie
Mm-hmm.
where it's a love movie and then there are sex scenes in the movie, but that's not the same as just hardcore porn.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. So in other words, I think my point is that they don't look at external factor for stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
They look at themselves
Mm-hmm.
and what works for them.
Yeah, that's
right?
a good point.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. And that's why, going to the next step is that happy couple that they have highly enjoyable sex life, they are not obsessed about reaching orgasm.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in porn movies or those erotic movies that you talk about, orgasm is the goal. Mm-hmm. For the most part. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
But for happy couple, they're not obsessed about orgasm. Mm-hmm. They can reach orgasm or they don't have to reach orgasm. They enjoy the process of making love. Mm-hmm. Right? And that process can be as enjoyable as actually having an orgasm. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
And people have learned that unless they reach orgasm, that means sex is not complete. Where in fact, if some people have a hard time reaching orgasm, mm-hmm. right? Physiologically, emotionally, psychologically, when they are preoccupied about how am I going to reach orgasm, right? They kind of take away from their involvement in the sexual, process.
Well, preoccupied with anything.
With
really.
anything, yes.
Yeah, if you're worried about the
right.
2-year-old walking
right.
in, then that's going to interfere
right.
as well.
Right. Right. So when people don't focus on orgasm and they focus on the process, that means touching, feeling each other, listening to each other. And I had a discussion with a client last night that how hearing and listening are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was shockingly asking me, what are you talking about? How hearing is different than listening?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I had to explain that to him. You hear,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't listen,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Because we don't listen, because we are processing at the same time that we are hearing how to respond back.
Well, that's what that's important, I think, for people to understand, is that you can listen to respond, or you can listen to understand.
To understand, exactly.
And if you listen to respond, then you're probably going to miss a large part of the communication, right, because right, they may say something at the very beginning and you're just waiting politely till you respond and missing right, the rest of what they're saying.
Exactly. Yes. Mm-hmm. So in other words, they are in a defense mode or some sort of, defense mechanism, mm-hmm, because they need protection. They need the sense of safety for themselves.
Right.
Right. So, so that's about orgasm, which what you and I talked about is right now brings me to they are able to read each other. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So from the beginning of a sexual activity, happy couple and those who are able to connect to each other, they are able to read each other's movement. They are able to read each other's feelings, and they are able to attend to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially if they go to a tattoo artist and they can put things on their body, they can definitely read each other, right?
Well, I'm not.
The tattoo says, "Touch me here."
Right. Well, you can say that, but by reading each other, I meant, about each other's mood. Usually, mm-hmm, men are able to get in a mood faster, and you and I are writing about that in our book. Mm-hmm. But some women may need sort of a more stimulation and more of a foreplay in order to get mood, especially if they didn't think about having sex is coming up for them.
Yeah, right? and I think it's important now to also say that foreplay doesn't always have to, and oftentimes doesn't start in the bedroom.
Exactly.
That foreplay begins with simply playing with each other before you go to bed.
Right.
And you can play with each other sexually, or you can just play with each other where you're kidding around or teasing each other, where you're creating an energy of connection.
Right.
And that sets the mood, and then it's easier for both people to want to connect sexually.
Exactly. And then, and that's why, when we talked about porn movies, right? Porn movies really, for some people, doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a very quick stimulation, product. I would call it a product.
Yeah, it's a product.
It's a product, but it's not really for some people who cannot connect to that, and they are focused on themselves, mm-hmm, and what works for them, right? And so these are people that, for the most part, are aware of their sexuality, are able to focus on themselves, are able to understand their sexual self. Mm-hmm. So external factor doesn't stimulate them. Mm-hmm. But understanding where they are sexually with their partner is what gets them going.
Mm-hmm. Right? And then you just used a term, maybe you can expand on that. You used the term sexual self. So maybe you can talk to our listeners for a couple of minutes. We've only got a couple of minutes left, but tell listeners what our sexual self is.
So sexual self, in short, and of course, if you want to talk about sexual self, maybe we need a few episodes on that, mm-hmm, right? But sexual self is who we are as a sexual being. That means we are able to know and understand and recognize various aspects of our sexuality. our sexual wants, desires, needs, what works for us, what doesn't work for us. We understand our physiological part of our sexuality. We know about our sexual organ. It also touches on our authentic true self.
Mm-hmm.
It touches on our spirituality. Is who we are at the time of birth, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That we are open to possibilities, we are open to growth, we are open to be our own sexual being, right? Without carrying with us, the impositions of society, culture, norms of society about our maleness, femaleness. So we are who we are as a being. We are who we are as a sexual being.
And saying that, it's important to add, I think, that we are born as sexual beings.
Right.
And even they've noticed, or they've been able to see that boys, infants, male infants can actually have erections while they're still in utero.
Exactly.
And
yes.
They've been able to measure girls having lubrication as early as 3 days old.
3 days old,
yeah.
Yes.
So we are born as sexual creatures.
Yes.
And
we die as sexual creatures.
We do.
Right?
We do, yeah.
We are sexual from the moment of birth until we die. So our sexuality, our sexual self doesn't go away, but our sexual desire may kind of decrease or increase depending on where we are age-wise, but it will never go away. So understanding who we are as a sexual being is a big aspect of our sexual self.
And then there are people who don't engage in sex, and I would say that those people still have sexual selves, but they have, for a number of reasons, disconnected from that part of themselves.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from neuroscience perspective, it says that who we are as a sexual being is a product of our environment and our culture, right? So we would like to touch on this one maybe next time. At this time, our time is over, and we thank you for sharing your hour with us. At this point, I'd like to invite you to please join us at the hour 4 o'clock for another episode of Codependency, Trauma, Addictions, and Relationship with Dr. Robert Jaffe hosting that program. Thank you so much for listening to us, and don't forget, all you need is love.
All you need is love. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.